prices. So depending on the different scenarios, their prices were within 1% of each other. We did get 5 bidders. Other than those 2, there were 2 local bidders that were a little bit higher. So we intend to award contracts to the 4 lowest bidders since it's an on-call contract, and we reach out to them based on availability and their prices. Generally, the 3rd and 4th place contractors only get a couple a year, so the majority of them we anticipate will be done by the top 2 bidders that have the closest prices. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
So moved.
I'll second. I have one quick question.
Yes.
So these are only for disturbed, these aren't planned replacements, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get just, we have 2 newer aldermen here on city council. Can you just give a real brief synopsis about why we're doing this, when we started doing it, replacing the lead lines?
Sure. It's been on our radar for some time in the industry where once you disturb a lead service, there's potential for elevated lead levels in the water, so that triggers replacement. 2 years ago in the fall of 21, the state passed a bill saying that we have to replace all lead services. So currently we're replacing ones that are disturbed. Eventually, starting in 2027, we'll have a set amount that we have to replace. But currently we're replacing pretty close to that amount anyways, based on these services that get disturbed or require maintenance and services that are related to our construction projects that we are replacing main and disturbing as part of those projects.
Okay. There's a motion by Lamas
I'll second.
and second Alderman Ted Mesiacos. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion passed. Thank you. 5-0. Next item.
Item 23-0856, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to enter into an agreement with Electric Conduit Construction in the amount of $399,388 for electrical improvements along Penny Street in Ward 6.
Good afternoon, Jason Bauer, Department of Public Works. So this project is the first step towards taking care of the Piney Street deck. If you're not familiar with it, so Piney Street is basically, if you think of the intersection of New York and River, if you go a little bit north, there's it's like basically just a parking lot. It's not a through street. That's called Piney Street. On the back of those, there's 7 buildings there. On the back of 6 of them is a shared deck. So the city owns and maintains the deck, and it's in a state of disrepair. We've been keeping an eye on it for the past 3 or 4 years, and it's finally gotten to the point where we don't feel comfortable allowing people to use the deck anymore. So the first step in removal of the deck is to take all of the electric off of it. I included some photos to kind of familiarize yourselves with the area. There's a lot of conduit down there. There's a lot of equipment that is currently underneath the deck, so all that needs to be removed and relocated off the deck before we can move forward with the next phase of the project. So the game plan moving forward is we're going to work with all the businesses. We've already talked to all of them to find out what their needs are for access. Per the fire marshal, only one of them needs an egress out the back for fire purposes. So we're going to keep that one active for now. And once the electric is off and we do the removal, then we're going to work with all the individual owners to determine exactly what they need. None of them are in favor of the large shared deck as it stands now. It is built on city property, so the game plan moving forward would be to work out a lease agreement or a license agreement for people to have their own individual sets of stairs. Some people don't even want any kind of access. They don't need it and they don't want it because they also actually have entrances into their basements off of Piney Street, and a lot of them are like, well, with this deck gone, I can actually have access and I can get in and out of there, because right now there's not enough headroom for them to get in and out. So again, that all starts with this project, which is the removal of the electric. So we're actually going to take everything off. Everyone's going to get a new service that's going to be run from the transformers on the west side of the, there's currently 2 transformers under the deck, and there's a newer one on the west end of the deck. So we're going to connect everyone to that, bring everything in underground, really clean things up, and most importantly, get it off the deck so that we can move forward with that removal. So we did go out to public bid. We got 4 bids. The lowest bid was ECC out of Elburn, and we are recommending moving forward with that bid. This project was budgeted for this year, so the funds are available, and we'd like to get moving sooner rather than later. Again, we've got some things we need to do just from a safety standpoint. And yeah, with that, definitely more than willing to answer any questions.
So many years deal with this, right?
Yeah. For as long as I can remember, this
Yeah.
has been there. I think we did some repairs maybe within the last 10 years just to kind of keep it moving along, but it's just to the point now where we need to come up with a permanent solution.
So, Jason, so now individually, the businesses, they want to have their own steps?
Some of them do, yes, some of them do.
If they want it, they can do it.
We haven't worked all that out yet, because obviously right now the city is providing some degree of access. So, that's all going to have to be worked out in whatever agreements we put forward to everyone. But we know that we no longer want to be responsible for maintaining, and, we want to be, whatever we do come up with each owner, we want to make sure that it's a nice, clear agreement that stipulates they're responsible for maintenance and that they're responsible for any future replacement. Again, they do only, it is a common deck, so it does serve somewhat of a public function right now, and we just don't think that there's a need for that any longer. And again, with at least one of them not even wanting any sort of access,
Yeah.
we know that there's definitely improvements that can be made to the overall setup.
Questions, comments? Yes?
Question. I noticed in the bid tab, there's $30,000 for, what was the term?
Items ordered by engineer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a contingency?
That's our contingency, yeah. So we like to put that in the contract so that, we're not coming to you guys for a $2,000, if they're digging underground and they
Understood. I
hit
just want to
something.
know if you already had
Yep.
certain items already in mind, that's why.
Yeah, no, definitely, and we know with this one that there'll definitely be things that we come across because, we've got a pretty good idea how everything is set up out there, but until you really dig into it, it'll take a little bit of field work.
Okay, yes?
Question. Thanks. So, two questions, I guess. One is, how did we become responsible for this? I'm guessing because it's tied to the deck, which we're responsible for?
Yeah, it's on city property, so we actually own up to the face of the building, so everything there currently right now is in the city right-of-way. So by virtue of that, with no other existing agreement that states that we're not responsible for it, we're responsible for it, and that's one of the things we're going to try and correct moving forward.
Okay, and then once it goes under, you're saying it's going to go underground and then be attached to each individual building. At that point, are we making sure that if somebody does want to build their deck out individually, they can still do it, it won't interfere?
Yeah, we're putting it, so everything that we're running now is going to be out. There's a sidewalk along the south end, and we're not going to let anybody build over the sidewalk, and that's where all the new runs are going to go. So we're going to basically, from the west end of the deck, go under the sidewalk the entire way, and then when we need to, make that one run up to their building where we would set the meter socket.
Okay, thank you. Further questions?
Other questions? Comment? No? Okay.
So moved.
Oh, and just one last thing too, because we do want to get this moving, we wanted to present it here to you guys, but instead of going to Cal next week, we're going to bring this as new business tomorrow at council so that we can start the process of ordering, having this person start ordering materials and get things moving so that we're not waiting as long.
Yeah, want to be my question. So they want to be this time for this winter, is already removed the deck?
No, we won't. Based on parts and availability and everything, we don't envision that the deck removal would happen probably until maybe next fall. We're going to need a decent amount of time to get the work going and get this electric
The
removed.
electrical.
But in the interim, we're going to work towards, we're going to work with all the owners and make sure they know that they can't use the back access. We're going to build, little barricades so that they can't get out the back doors, with the exception of the one property that needs it for fire. And in that case, we're going to shore the deck up in that area. We're already working with Passion through the JOC program to get numbers for what it would take to make that safe.
Especially the Amore Mio want to be open.
That's
again.
the one that needs the access for fire, yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, just for clarification, can legal explain to us how we move straight to city council and bypass Cal?
Well, it's going under new
Do we need to-
business.
Do we need to make a motion to send it direct to city council?
Put it on the agenda would have been posted, right?
The agenda's posted, yeah, correct.
So under what is that, the same clause that we did for,
They brought this here, I think this is more for informational only.
oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
And then it's
All right.
to council.
I see, so we
Yes.
don't vote on it.
Yeah.
We're just, this is just an informative piece then.
What?
Yeah, we normally would have brought it here first anyway, and so just out of respect to the committee, we wanted to still
All
do
right,
that step.
all right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Motion?
There's no motion, it's just,
You could,
Okay.
I think you want recommendation whether this would be something whether this would be something that you guys would consider. So then, when it comes before you tomorrow, they can provide that information that they did bring it here, but because it's not moving on in that item in the traditional fashion, it's going direct to, but you guys can't provide a recommendation one way or the other.
That's okay for me. Somebody is in favor or is against, or it's okay to go in tomorrow to city council?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I do have
That's
one
fine.
follow-up question. but-
Sure.
Just on the one that needs it for fire access, is there any way that it would be quicker, cheaper, and less, if they could just cut an entrance in the back? Or is it
They
gonna have to
do.
be-
They have two entrances right now, and there's actually a stairwell behind there, but it's.
Because they're upstairs, they need.
Yes,
a-
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And the stairwell is it's rickety, and we want to make sure that before we walk away from it, that we know that it's going to be safe until we do the demolition and whatever plans they have permanently.
And then presumably we're liable if anything happens on that. We still own that piece of deck that's going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I would defer to legal on that, but it's on city property, and we do own and maintain it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next
Or do you
item?
want a motion in second, or don't worry about it?
No,
He's saying go ahead.
we don't need it.
You can do either, it'd be up to your prerogative, that if you wanted
We
to
need a
just pass it
motion?
out with a recommendation,
Okay.
or you can
Who
pass
makes
it
the
as.
motion?
I'll do a motion.
Oliver, make the motion.
How would you call the motion out?
Just a motion to approve.
Motion
Yeah.
to recommend approval?
Motion already approval by Tolliver, and who makes second?
All right.
Second, Ted Misiakos, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion pass, 5-0. Okay. Next item?
Item 23-0885, a resolution authorizing a 2-year instrumentation service agreement with the HACH Company for $161,678 with 51 cents for the Water Production Division.
Good afternoon, Joe Munder again. In the operation of the water plant, we rely on some 85 remote sensors to bring us back data to the SCADA system for certain residuals, pHs, and so forth within the plant. Those 85 devices are procured from Hot Corporation. Hot Corporation is a sole source for the repair and maintenance of those devices. This contract is for a 2-year contract for the maintenance of those, quarterly maintenance of those devices. They come in, they provide all the gear, the know-how, and everything to keep those devices running. Should we have a problem, they come in on call to get things fixed and put back in service.
Questions, comments? Yes, Jen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How many of these go bad per year?
Pardon?
How many will go bad per year roughly?
We generally have service calls every third or fourth month, slightly out of phase with the quarterly visit, so they'll come in between the quarterly visit. They're come 4 times a year anyway to do all the basic maintenance on these devices. And then when and if we have a problem, they come in and fix it. For instance, we had a problem with one of the sensors on our river intake. The sensor itself was a $9,000 part that was replaced as a portion of this contract at no cost.
So, okay, so the maintenance usually covers it, and periodically, sporadically, there's a call. Thank you.
Yeah, and anything that needs to be upgraded or fixed or replaced on a quarterly basis, that's part of this contract.
Okay. Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Ted Misiakos,
Second.
second Alderman Lesh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion pass 5-0.
Mr. Lebo, if I may, Madam Chairwoman?
Yes.
I know your typical day's over with already, correct? And I
Sure.
see that you have your leg in a brace with a cane, so I would recommend next time, just ask us to ask the chairwoman perhaps to give you courtesy to put your items together up front. We can get those over with, so we don't have to stress your leg out any little more than it has to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully in 2 weeks, it'll all be fixed.
God bless.
Thank you.
Yes.
All the best.
Okay, next item.
Item 23-0906, a resolution awarding the 2024 sanitary sewer televising contract to Pipeview LLC, DBA Pipeview America, in the amount of $517,075.50.
Good afternoon again. Kurt Muth with the Engineering Division. So this is a contract we bid out annually to inspect the sanitary sewers underneath the roads that we anticipate overlaying the following year. This helps us to identify sections of pipe that are failing, that we need to dig up and repair immediately, and sections that are deficient and could fail in the future but don't necessarily need dig repair and that we can line. Typically, we follow that up with a lining contract, which is currently out to bid, and we'll be bringing forward to you in a few weeks. But this one we bid out for the 2024 and 2025 roadway overlay lists. We received 4 bids back. 2 of them were very competitive. They were within 2% of each other. The second lowest bidder is a contractor that has historically won this contract the last 4 or 5 years. And then the low bidder is based out of Texas currently. I did some research because I'm not familiar with them. But they originated in the Chicagoland area, I believe out of Schaumburg, and they still currently have crews up here. I talked to some references and they spoke highly of them, so I'm confident they can complete the work.
I have a question. So normally they televising only the areas when you have complaints or concerns, maybe as the area with some difficulties, or they do in general the whole area in the city? How they do?
Some of them we do investigate areas where we know there might be potential issues or history of problems, but a lot of times we do it underneath the roadways that are going to get overlaid, resurfaced the next year. We'd like to identify any dig repairs we need to do and get those fixed before we have nice new roads, so we don't want to have to come back and tear them up. So we primarily focus on the roads that are going to get paved, say next summer or the following year.
So the roads when they want to pave, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we try and inspect the sewers over the winter so that in the spring, if we need to dig up and replace a section of pipe, that we get that done ahead of them paving the streets.
Okay. So normally they do also with the roads, they have a lot of heavy traffic? Or no?
Some of the bigger roads we address, if there's a federal project coming up, like say on Indian Trail where they're doing some widening, we did televise those sewers this last spring to identify any repairs that need to be done ahead of that. So we do also not just focus on the residential streets, but some of the bigger streets as well.
Yeah. With the residential area, I think we have some issues with routes, a lot of routes. So they, when they televising, they showing that too?
The majority of this contract televises the actual sewer mains, which are in the streets.
Only the big,
Yes, a lot of the root
the
issues
basins.
are in the individual services, which are owned and maintained by the residents. We don't televise those as frequently. Sometimes we'll televise the individual services when we are going to install a water main or storm sewer across them so that we can get a depth on them and we can design around that, make sure we're not in conflict with it. And if we ever see roots in an issue in a private service, we definitely notify the homeowner and tell them you should go and have a plumber come rod this before you have any potential issues.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Okay.
Yes, John?
Just a quick one. It says we've got 2.5 million set aside for evaluation of the systems in the coming 24 budget. This is roughly $500,000. What do we use the rest for? Is it going to be more of this just in different areas of town, or is there some other evaluation that we have that money earmarked for?
I'd say this is probably the biggest contract we use to evaluate the system. And then we usually have a big contract to line the sewers that we identify as this. I currently have a bid out right now to line probably over $1 million worth of sewers. So we usually have a contract that follows up based on these results and tries to line the sewers that have cracks. And so a big part of that budget goes to rehab as well, not just evaluation.
Okay, I think it was worded as evaluation, but it's also rehab.
It is.
And do you have an idea of where this is going? I'm guessing you have some sort of ballpark of what needs to be done because you've got it broken out by pipe size? Or is that just a generic?
It's a good question. So the 24 and 25 overlay lists are being finalized. So right now, when we bid this out, we bid a general footage of anticipated. And once they finalize those lists, we identify the individual sewers that need to be lined, and then we can narrow down the sizes and the locations. So when we bid this out, the contractor doesn't know the exact sewers until we have that overlay list finalized. And we'll create maps based on that.
Okay, thank you. So moved?
Motion by Alderman Galesh,
Second.
second Alderman Tenmesiakos. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
you.
passed 5-0. Thank you.
Item 23-0924, a resolution to renew a 12-month agreement with AT&T for intrastate services in the amount of $172,000. $172,440.00.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Garza, members of the committee. Jeff Anderson, City's Deputy CIO. This will renew the contract we have for AT&T for the basically the ring circuit between our major buildings that also allows us to call outbound from those buildings in addition to calling ourselves, right? So it's the interstate and intrastate kind of calls we used to make you're probably used to at home that you've made as well, right? So, just to speak to this, the cost keeps going up here. One of the couple of things we brought to council previously, we've been working with a partner to help us merge our physical networks. We used to have a police department network and an everyone else network. We're bringing those together. That is nearing completion. We also brought in another partner to help us upgrade our internal phone system to get to the point where now we can actually use some of the more cost-effective solutions that are out in the market now. So this is hopefully the last time we come up for this. Hopefully we can get this squared away. If not, we'll go for a shorter one the next time.
Comments, questions? Yes?
One thing that caught my attention here was a 49% increase from the previous contract
Yep.
that was just in 2022. Why did it go up so much in less than 2 years?
Yeah, and you see all the providers are doing this. There's old legacy technology, and what they're trying to do is get people to move off of it. So if you think about your old, plain old telephone system lines or POTS lines that you may have had in your office or home, those have gone up significantly as well. They're trying to move folks to a voice over IP sort of protocol, more of a, instead of POTS lines, more of a system trunk or a SIP trunk, they call it now, line that is much more effective for all of us. Right, it's a combination of voice and data circuits instead of having separate voice circuits that are dedicated to voice. So if anybody's used any of the voice over IP services at home, like Vonage or any of those kinds of things, that's the kind of thing that
Yeah,
all the carriers are
I've had that
pushing
just
us
for,
to.
over
Exactly.
a decade now. So I guess I'm just so out of touch with
Yeah,
a normal telephone
exactly.
line that I didn't realize that other
Yeah.
companies are doing the same thing.
Yep, exactly, and it's just we're a much larger ship we're trying to turn here, and we're getting there slowly. And again, and we started with merging the networks, so now we can start to mix our voice and data traffic internally. We can then start to do that externally as well once we get the updated phone circuits to the outside, the voice over
Okay.
IP circuits.
Thank
Okay,
you.
You're welcome.
Yes?
Just on the, what percent has been moved over to voice over IP or data sort of?
I don't have a percentage for you. I will say, all of our internal calls have been traveling on our own network for years, right? These now this is traffic that leaves us, right? That goes out, that needs to be switched outbound, and that's the PSTN here, the Public Switch Telephone Network. So these are calls from one of our locations that needs to go outbound. So we're returning a customer's call, calling a vendor, those kinds of things, right? That portion of the network is not on voice over IP.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you have an idea of when we'll be there?
Well, no, I can't speak to dates while I'm up here now. This is, like I said, it's a big ship for us to move, and we've moved a lot of parts here at this point. We turned quite a bit. Merging the network was an enormous thing. And again, we used to have a police department, public safety only network, and then everyone else. That's all coming together on one network now. We're very close to that, which will allow us then to be a lot more flexible as to where we can route voice and data traffic. Okay. And in addition, one last thing, we had, the phone system we had internally wasn't, that we're still running on, you have the Cisco handsets on your phone, that is a very, very expensive, antiquated system as well, right? That just isn't to the level to speak those protocols to the outside public switch network yet.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Motion, Alderman Ted Misiacos.
Second?
Second, Alderman John Lesh. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
We have another.
Held item 23-0848, a resolution authorizing an agreement for a 3-year subscription with 2 option years for digital services and website software for Granicus, Denver, Colorado, for a total amount of $584,090.00.
So members of the members of the committee, if you remember this was the item that then went direct to council last week that they were done, so we would just need a motion to postpone indefinitely on this matter.
Motion to postpone indefinitely?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairwoman.
Okay.
Second?
Motion made by Alderman Ted Misiacos, second Alderman John Lesh. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much.
Make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Ted Misiacos. Second by Alderman John Lesh. All in favor, say aye. Motion
Aye.
adjourned at 4:30. Thank you very much.